Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line. I'm David Hart, Executive Vice President at the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and our special guest today is Stephanie Kopeloussis, the Director of Legislative Affairs for Governor DeSantis. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Stephanie, I'm excited to have you here today as we're about the midway point of session, but I'm reflecting back on the governor's State of the State just a month ago when he said that our legal system is not a game and it shouldn't be used as such. We've long advocated here at the Florida Chamber to improve our state's bottom 5 ranking for our legal climate. And I wonder if you could share with Florida Chamber's members why that goal is important to the governor.
Well, clearly, since he's taken office, that has been a high priority for him. He mentioned in the first State of the State that we needed to deal with the AOB, and the legislature worked with us, and we were able to accomplish that. But it was a help from a lot of our partners throughout the state, including the Florida Chamber. And that was an important piece of legislation that we needed to get across the goal line. And I think you see legislation this session that are going through that I think will make a difference. But the governor's made it a clear priority. I mean, just look at how many judicial appointments he's made, and really trying to get us from the bottom. We are at the bottom, and making that climate better for Floridians.
Well, we couldn't be prouder to partner with him and have him leading that fight. It makes a huge difference. I also wanted to ask you about a pretty interesting announcement that the governor made last Friday in Jacksonville. He announced the creation of a new direct service organization for our corrections department, and it had a really important and unique tie to Florida's workforce. Would you talk a little bit about the governor's philosophy there and what he's after?
Absolutely. I think you don't hear a lot of mention of our correction system unless it's in a negative fashion. And I think what the governor's trying to do is raise that attention and really work with the private sector in order to reduce recidivism. And that means making sure those that come out of our correction system don't go back in, that they become productive members of our society. And what this direct services organization will do is bring the private sector and some of our community partners, some that are working with us today at the Department of Corrections, but bring in new partners to the table to really work on different education programs, life skills, really bringing the private sector. What we want to do is get the private sector to say, here are the jobs that we have available. And with our unemployment rate so low now, businesses are looking for good people to work. And so what we want to do is introduce them to these individuals and try to make sure they have the appropriate training. So when they leave the system, that they have a job available to them and that they're prepared for that job, whether it's through life skills, education, or vocational work. And so that's what we're trying to do, is really connect the dots. And that's bringing the private sector to the table. And I want to thank you personally. You agreed to be on that board, and the Chamber has agreed to help bring businesses and bring it to their attention and try to get more help for these individuals.
Stephanie, we're honored to do it. It's a very worthy goal, and again, thank the governor for his leadership and confidence in us to partner with him. Last question has to do with sort of a pretty important topic within the state's budget. So we're in what would most years be considered budget week here in the legislative session, where the House and Senate will take up their budgets and soon go to conference. There's an important battle that seems to be happening the last few years and will again this year, related to funding for Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. The governor supported full funding of both in his proposed budget, as has the Florida Chamber. I wonder how are you feeling about how that budget battle is shaping up, and what can Florida Chamber members do to help at this point?
It's a great question. You never know as we go through this budget process how things are going to come out at the end. But I think one of the things that are important to Floridians and important to our state is funding. I mean, a major industry for us is tourism, and making sure that message is gotten out, and that's through the marketing arm with Visit Florida. But you look at EFI and the importance. The governor has taken trips to New York, to Chicago, to encourage businesses to come look at Florida. We have an amazing climate here in Florida for businesses, and encouraging that. And without those two organizations, that makes it difficult. So, I mean, it's about reaching out. It's about sharing that message. sharing what businesses that are now part of the chamber that came here because of the efforts of those at EFI and the governor. And I think that's just an important message to continue to talk about.
Stephanie Kapeloussis, thank you for your public service to the state of Florida. And to our members, thank you for joining us on another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line.